tell you a story of a row in the town. When the green flag went up and the crown flag came down, was the neatest and sweetest thing ever you saw. And he played the great games they call there in the bra.
I'm Constance Cowley, and my mother was Molly O'Reilly.
My name is Clare Cowley and I'm Molly O'Reilly's granddaughter. Okay. Molly was born in 1900. She was born Mary Theresa O'Reilly.
Her father was from Cavan. Okay. James O'Reilly was his name. Okay. And her mother was inner city Dublin. Again, he was kind of a pro-Brit in one way, you know.
And she was born in Gardner Street in Dublin. And at a very young age she got involved with socialism, I suppose you'd like to call it.
The age of about 9 she started going to Liberty Hall, and the father understood that it was to learn Irish dancing, so he didn't object.
One day Molly's mother was standing outside their home in Gardner Street, and she saw Molly coming down with 2 young boys and a handcart and a sack on top. And when Molly got to her mother, she said, Mother, Mr. Connolly would like you to mind these. And she says, what are they? And she said, they don't concern you. Just mind them, it'll be for a short time. And she asked where would she put them. She says, under my father's bed. So they put the sacks under the father's bed, and several weeks later, I believe, the British Army raided the house. But when they saw Mr. O'Reilly in the bed, they knew, he being a great supporter of the British, that it was all right. And the guns from the Ascard were actually under his bed and they never discovered them. She was enamoured with James Connolly. She saw poverty all around her and she wanted to do something which I think is quite inspirational for someone so young. During the Great Lockout, she worked in the soup kitchens, helping peeling potatoes and getting food ready.
When James Connolly was giving lectures, she would stand at the back of the hall and listen to everything he said. And she realised that he wasn't embellishing anything, because on her way to Liberty Hall from her grandmother's house in Rutland Street, she would go through a part called Glarney's Buildings, and this was poverty personified in there. She saw poverty there on her way to Liberty Hall, so she was there until she was in Liberty Hall until she was about 16. She was dancing one night, and some lad let her go, and she went through hit the window and it broke, and she made herself scarce because she thought that she would be in trouble. But James Connolly had to send Rosie Hackett for her to come down and see him. So she thought she was going to get told off about the window, but he told her that she was chosen to hoist the flag over Liberty Hall to declare Liberty Hall free of British imperialism.
Okay.
He had initially wanted Constance Marcus to do it, but for fear of assassination by the British, they chose somebody young. Molly was 16 years of age. She had long red hair, 2 ponytails, and she went to Liberty Hall.
She was handed the flag in Beresford Place from James Connolly, and then she was escorted to the roof of Liberty Hall where the flag was hoisted.
On Palm Sunday she hoisted the flag, and she was so small they had to put her on a chair to hoist it up. But she was supported by 3 train bearers, and one of them was Sean Connolly's daughter Monica.
James Connolly had written the play Under Which Flag, and it was performed just the night before the rising. The next day anyway, when the Extended Army was in formation outside of Liberty Hall, she was in the ranks, And someone told her mother, they lived at the end of Gardner Street, and the mother ran across and tried to pull her out. But she told her mother to go home and mind the babies, that she was going with Mr. Connolly. She was picked with Sean Connolly and about 40 others to go to Dublin Castle. She brought several messages from the City Hall requesting more men, but they couldn't spare anyone.
And Sean Connolly later was shot in City Hall by a British sniper.
She was bringing communiques back and forward between City Hall and the GPO.
And one of her last dispatches back to James Connolly was that Sean Connolly, the Abbey actor, had been killed.
And she was there until the end of the rising.
After the 1916, she was disillusioned, and she wouldn't talk about, the people that she had loved so much that had been killed. And she went away to be a nurse in England.
She landed in a place called Heysham in Lancashire, and they picked her up there from this hospital. So most of the patients were on war from France, the British Army. But she was nursing there for several months, and then letters started coming from Ireland, from her friends, saying that the trouble was starting again, and she decided to come home.
And she came back, and she got a job in the Hibernian Service Club in Stephen's Green. And something that we only found out in recently through a book that I'd been reading by Joe Connell, that she actually was one of Michael Collins's best sources of intelligence. So I believe Molly became a spy for Michael Collins. That was when she was about 18 or so. And until she was a digs organiser, a safe house organiser for the IRA on the run. And she did that until 1922-23.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are Molly's two medals. The one in my left hand is her 1916 medal, and the one on my right is her 1922-23 medal. And she was first arrested on the 1st of March and let go, but on the 8th of August, and we have her arrest warrant under she was a danger to the state. So this is Saoirse Éireann. It's Public Safety Emergency Powers Act 1923. So it was an emergency act that was passed by the then Minister for Defence Richard Mulcahy, and it was the order for Molly O'Reilly's arrest. She was arrested out in Dalkey, and she's got a prison sentence, and she was in prison until November, and she did 16 days hunger strike. So I believe she was probably one of the first hunger strikers, female hunger strikers in this country. I believe at the time the government didn't know what to do with the women who were on hunger strike, so they just threw them out onto the side of the road. And a notice was put into the papers for people to nurse them back to health. And Molly was sent down to Summerhill, and Mrs. Amelia nursed her back for 3 months. And she was spoon-fed for months. So I never, unfortunately, got a chance to meet Molly or any of my grandparents. Her husband had been in 1922, he had served time as well, and they all seemed to have ill health as a result of it. And on my paternal side, I have to mention that my paternal grandfather was in the British Army, and he was injured in World War I. So I'm one of the generation that never got to meet any of their grandparents. And I believe, thanks to all their contributions, that will never happen in this country again. And I'm glad it won't, because I think it's a big shame not to know your grandparents. But my mum has made sure that Molly's story has stayed alive, and she has done everything for years and years to keep her story alive, and we're now glad that Molly's story has been recorded in books for future generations to know what my grandmother did.
You showed me a clip of Molly actually last night you sent. How did you feel when you saw that? Or?
Well, I've only ever seen photographs of Molly. It's very hard to explain that you have grandparents that you just see it's a photograph, it's quite flat. And somebody sent me a British Pathé News clip, and it was recorded in 1938, a commemoration of the GPO garrison. And, I expected just to see a photograph, but this was live footage. And I saw for the first time my grandmother moving and talking to people and animated and laughing and joking. And it was a very emotional experience for me, because that's the nearest I'll ever get to seeing her alive. And, it's something I treasure now.
No, I really hope that everybody gets together and really commemorates it in one spirit, rather than chopping and changing and somebody doing one thing and somebody doing something else. They should all amalgamate and agree on how's the best form to commemorate 1916 in 2016.
Okay. And Claire, would you?
Well, my views on 2016 is I hope that my mum gets to see Molly being recognised and to celebrate the occasion in 2016. That would be very important to me. I hope that people get behind and unite to celebrate this wonderful occasion. No matter what your politics are, these people, with what they had at the time, gave up their lives for truly to make our country a better place. And let's acknowledge them and move on and celebrate them. And let's build a better country in honour of them.
Thanks be to God, it's a beautiful morning, and I would like to thank everybody again for making the effort to come here and honour the women of 1960. Thank you.
Well, here's to old Dublin, and here's her renown. For the long generation her fame will go down, and the children will tell how their forefathers saw how the red blaze of freedom for air in the law. And our children will tell how their forefathers saw how the red blaze of freedom for air will tell you a story of a row in the town. When the green flag went up and the crown flag came down, was the neatest and sweetest thing ever you saw. And he played the great games they call airing